Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Hello, listeners, and welcome. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke. It's great to have you here joining us in November. I wanted to give you a little update before our interview with Ernst from Funxtion. I had the privilege of being at Club Industry a couple weeks back at their event, their CEO Summit in Chicago. That was great. Thanks, everyone, for saying hello. And I had the opportunity to sit on a round table with several colleagues, and that was a wonderful event. And then last week, Fit Nation, the Virtual Gym folks, and Hugo and his team, his brother Paul, they put on a great event at a wonderful venue, the Film Museum, the Eye Museum in Amsterdam. It was terrific, wonderful to see all the colleagues there. It's been too long. Had a great time, learned a lot, was able to see a number of colleagues. So got to spend time with the team, Basic Fit, Marcel, Mark at Club Joy, and many others. Thanks to Hans and others who listen to this podcast regularly for making time. And it's always energizing to see what the Europeans and Dutch are up to, because they are really doing a lot of very innovative things. So I really appreciate you all saying hello, and the keynote deck will be up and posted here next week, so keep your eyes out. So on to today's interview. Now, Ernst De Neef, who is CEO and founder, or co-founder of Funxtion, that's Funxtion. Yeah, I've been following them for a long time, as the interview with Ernst will attest. And by the way, they closed a funding round, I think about a month back. But as Ernst will tell you in our interview, I've been following them since around 2012, 2013. And as he'll describe the story, when we were talking about omnipresence back in 2015, and I was keynoting quite a bit in Europe on trends, there was this company called Funxtion that was actually executing on things that very few people were doing. And I really have a lot of respect for their business. He'll describe what they're doing, and I highly recommend you check out their website, which is going to be in the show notes. So without further ado, let's bring on Ernst, CEO of Funxtion, and learn about their business and what's going on. Well, hello, listeners. As I mentioned in the intro, having just come back from the Netherlands, I have Ernst from Funxtion, a longtime colleague. Ernst, thanks for joining us this morning on the podcast. I appreciate you making time.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Bryan. Happy to be here.
We've met years back at FIBO, and I've been following you all for a long time. We've had a number of chats, and I've always been inspired by your vision, and what you are up to. And again, congrats on your recent financing round. Congratulations, and I know that's going to help you bring your vision to the industry even more. So applause for you and your team.
Thanks. Thank you, Bryan. Yeah, much appreciated. We're happy with it. Absolutely. It will help us accelerate growth, and in the end, help of course our customers and serve our customers even better.
Before we got on the podcast, we were chatting, and I thought this was an interesting observation that we were discussing together, Ernst and I, for the listeners. Having just come back from Fit Nation and having many colleagues in Europe, and particularly in the Netherlands, our friends Hugo from Virtual Gym, and there's so many, Marcel at Basic Fit, of course, Ernst, and many others that I'm going to Mark at Club Joy. I mean, there's many others. I don't want to leave anybody out. But we were talking about the fact that, in my view, so much innovation has come out of the Netherlands. And it's really quite fascinating when you see that amount of development and innovation. Ernst, you had an interesting theory that I hadn't thought about as to why that is.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, like I just explained to you, it's something that I once heard in another podcast or on the radio. Is that since we're a really small country and we don't have a lot of natural resources to sell or something, we always had to trade to make money. So even in the Middle Ages, we went out there with our ships looking for opportunities. So I told you that our focus always has been really outward focused, what's out there and how can we make money, because we didn't have oil or something that we could sell, and we're a small country. So I think that it's kind of like in our genes to go out there, have a very open vision, and I think if you kind of like translate it back to where we are now in 2022, you see that we are, I think, one of the countries that adapted technology and innovation, big time compared to many other countries, big countries around us. Not only within our industry, it's funny indeed the names you mentioned, and there's a few more, but indeed there are some great companies from the Netherlands surfing our industry, the fitness industry, but also in other industries. You see big companies like Adyen, Booking, Dutch companies going abroad and doing internationally great.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really great.
So it must be in our genes.
Yeah, and every time I come back, I'm so energized by spending time with people like you and hearing from you and just understanding your thinking. It's very rewarding for me. So I'm glad I was able to go. For the listeners that don't know what Funxtion is, can you tell us a little bit about why you started the business with your partners and what led you to creating it?
Yeah, great. Yeah. No, well, actually, when we launched Funxtion in 2011 with my business partner Mando, we didn't have any technology, nothing digital. But we started our career in the industry late 90s. Actually, we started our careers at Live Fitness, selling equipment, and throughout the decades, we saw that the same problems occurred in our industry. So every keynote, every lecture, every session was about the retention problem, and how is it possible that we lose about half of our members within 1 year? And actually, that was the birth of Funxtion, where we looked at the problems and we said to each other, you see that we um, we know what are the dissatisfiers in the industry. We know why people leave health clubs. Why not just list all the dissatisfiers that we know, then draw a line and just, what's the opposite of this dissatisfier? So working out alone versus working out in a group, working out in a very energizing environment, because, back then most of the clubs still had gray carpet, white walls, bright lights. Why not an experience environment? Why working out on machines that were originally made for bodybuilders? I mean, we said to each other, think of this. We're complaining for decades as operators in this industry. But what we do is we tell people, we help you to get fit. You've been in your office sitting on a chair the whole day. Come to our club, and what do? You have to sit down again on a machine and do a movement or an exercise you will never do in daily life. So we were kind of like really, I think, we started with wondering, why we kept on doing the same things in our industry for decades, and at the same time kept complaining about losing members. So we just looked at the dissatisfiers, took it from a really consumer's perspective. So, what do they really want? And actually, that was the birth of Funxtion, where we believed that we should just change the whole way the product fitness being offered to members. So actually, we were one of the first saying, let's do small group training in the fitness area. So not in the group plus studio, because we knew the last meal success and all those critical success factors. But let's bring that on the gym floor and then work out with your body weight or small accessories. So that's how we created small group training programming, and we designed for operators that space. So we told them, just create a space, get rid of some machines, because you don't need 20 treadmills, 10 is enough, or 15, yeah? Just get rid of some equipment, create a space with a high experience value. So we designed it with branding on the wall, colored lights, everything. But the most important thing is that we told them we're going to run small group training programs, and we're going to educate your instructors to run those programs with small accessories and in the functional training area. And back then, many operators didn't even know what a kettlebell was. They said to us, a kettlebell, what's that? And so we kind of like were really like preaching to them, like Albert Einstein said, problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created them. Right. So if you keep on providing that same context to members, so, we have a space with on the left side cardio machines, on the right side there's strength machines. Here's your training plan. If there's anything, let us know. I mean, of course, it won't solve the problem. So change that context, and that was really the birth of our concept Funxtion, where we started creating content, because in the end we're a content company, and actually that took off so well that we sold it to 300 clubs in the Benelux quite fast. So it was really driven by stepping in the shoes of that end consumer, the member, and thinking. There was a very simple, and that's the last thing I'm going to say about it. There was a very simple philosophy. Everything that provides you with energy, you tend to continue, right? So if you have a very energizing relationship, or your work is very energizing, you're not going to quit. You're not going to say to your wife or your spouse, or, it's very energizing, our relationship, but I'm going to quit. But once it costs you a lot of energy, you're going to quit sooner or later. So our philosophy was, that whole fitness experience is a de-energizing experience. And how can we turn that around into an energizing experience? Because then people will probably continue with their workout, their membership, and in the end, everyone's happy.
That's a great background, and you tapping into the functional training trends for all the reasons you cite. And then I remember, seeing you every year at FIBO and what you were up to, and then really technology started to become a bigger and bigger play to your solution. I remember a number of years seeing your large screens and your integration with the mobile apps and the content. And when did this kind of new evolution for Funxtion really start to take hold of technology?
Yeah, it's interesting because while we got more and more customers running our Funxtion concept, it became a lot of work, because we had kind of like the Les Mills model. So we were sending our master trainers to the clubs every 3 months, educating the new programs. There were every month new training programs. But what happened actually 2 things. One, we saw in 2014, 13, 14, the digitalization in many other industries. So we saw in the world digitalization going on. And the second thing was that the large budget chains came to us and they said, we see your concept everywhere, and we think we should implement it also in our clubs. But our low cost proposition means less staff, and you need a lot of staff for your training programs to run those group training programs to members. Can't you offer that digitally? And then actually, that was the reason why in 2014, we said to each other, we've created so much content. What would happen if we would digitize everything? And we started thinking about that, and it ended up that we needed a portal to deliver that digital content into clubs. And back then we designed, you just referred to it, this kind of like huge iPhone, a touchscreen. It was an interactive screen. And that was the portal to push content to members. And the funny thing is, what happened is back then we directly created a portal, a backend portal for members to create their own workouts. And we created an app. So we said members can create a workout at home, then they push it to the app or to the screen. And when they enter the club, they can upload their program on the screen or in the app. And then it's a funny story. We decided in 2015 to rent a space at FIBO, the largest trade show in our industry. We all know FIBO. Yeah. And we said, we're going to put all our money on that booth, because we had a large booth with 6 stations and instructors doing group classes. And we spent all our money. We said, either this is going to be a success, or we are the only ones believing that technology is the way forward. So that was like an all or nothing risk back then. And I remember in our hall at FIBO, we were the only one with something digital. Right. So that was quite scary. And quite honestly, also timing-wise, a bit too early.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember that booth. I remember seeing you and you showing me what you were doing. And truly, you were doing omnipresent delivery before pretty much anybody else in the way you were doing it. No one else was
Yeah.
doing it. And that's why I was really very enthused about your efforts, but I knew it was early. It was a lot of people were seeing this and they couldn't quite understand what's going on.
It was too early.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I always tell, whenever, I'm going to sell the company, I'm going to write a book or give some keynotes. And one of the chapters for sure will be timing is everything.
Yes.
Because I just found some marketing materials that we launched back then around FIBO, and it said literally members want to work out in the gym, at home, or on the go.
Right.
And we told that to operators in 2015 at FIBO, and the response most of the time was, I don't want them to work out at home. They need to come to my club.
That's right.
So quite honestly, that was quite disappointing because we had that belief.
Yes.
We invested a lot of money in that platform, that portal, connected to an app, to an in-club screen, that omni-channel belief actually, but it was too early.
Yeah, but it was right because at the
Quite
same
honestly.
time I was sitting in a room of the CEOs of pretty much all the leading companies part of Europe Active, and I gave a briefing on the future. And what I was so enthralled with is it's one thing to speak the theory of what's going to happen. It's another thing to see a company with a product that's actually doing what you're talking about. So it was I had great hope when I saw that, but yes, it was early days. So Ernst, from that point, what are some of the dynamics that are really leading? Obviously, we know omnipresence, but what other things are really leading to the need to have these kinds of tools for operators today? I mean, we touched on automation. I know there are others. What's making it so relevant now to do these things and using your technology?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the funny thing is that, from, that moment at FIBO 2015, when we were too early, we developed that years after it, mainly in our content platform. And what helped us was, I think in 2017, 18, that we met with a large operator from Australia, one of the largest there. There's their CTO back then. And we invited him to see our experience station, that screen, and he said, "Fantastic! I just don't want the hardware. I want what's in there, your content only." And from there on, we started realizing, indeed, that the content, that's where the value is. And if you take this again from an end consumer's perspective, what members want is content. I mean, in the broadest sense of word. That's why they join health clubs, because they want content and advisory. And with content, I mean also that spinning class with an instructor, but they're looking for fitness content on their journey to a healthier lifestyle. Why digital content becomes relevant is that, and that's something that has been pushed by the pandemic. I mean, it helped us big time in that belief, that omni-channel belief, is that you cannot offer that content and advisory only within the four walls of the facility anymore. That's not how the world's turning anymore. I mean, physical barriers are really disappearing, and our industry, I think, is still a bit slow and behind when it comes down to digitalization. But members want to really be helped on their journey to a healthier lifestyle, and that goes around the clock, 24/7. Not only when they're in the facility, but also when they're at home and on the go. So we say, if you want to keep members loyal and engaged, you should provide them with digital fitness content anytime, anywhere. And then you have the ability to really and truly help them. And preferably that's a seamless, frictionless journey for them. But yeah, I mean, and then it comes down to not only the digital fitness content, but mainly the intelligence to be able to unlock this content to the different touch points in that omni-channel journey. But it's that simple. I think where we went wrong with our industry for decades is that we had members that joined health clubs because they believed there was their help, right? Whether they want to lose weight, gain weight, or become stronger whatsoever, they just said help. I want to pay 40 euros or $50 a month because I believe this is the place to work on my health goals. But what happened actually is that they got disappointed, and it's logical because they were only there maybe 1 hour, one time a week, and the other 168 hours a week they were on their own, not being helped and served. And yeah, of course they they got disappointed. And that's where also I think our passion about technology is that it's really it is a tool. It brings leverage to the business to really help members on their journey to a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, no, I agree so much. Now, because you've been in business for 12 years, right? About 12 years? Tell me, if you don't mind, what are some of the kind of words of wisdom that you would have for our audience when it comes to conceiving a company like this and getting to this point? Because it's been quite a journey for you. You said timing is everything is one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think timing is everything.
Yeah.
There have been some people that aren't as smart as they seem to be, but their timing was impeccable, right? But what other pearls of wisdom could you share with the audience?
Yeah. Well, I think our industry have always been really focused on ROI. What's my return on investment, which is a healthy way to look at a business. But sometimes the ROI, focusing only on the ROI, can give another meaning to ROI, meaning the risk of inaction. So I think avoiding the risk of inaction is very important. So sometimes, Richard Branson has a very simple saying: "Screw it, let's do it." That doesn't mean that you don't have to think and do things in a smart way. But I think if you can't foresee everything. Sometimes I think there's 30% that you can maybe predict, that you can set a good strategy and you can make plans. The other 70% will unfold along the way, but you need to take action. So the ROI for me is not about return of investment. The ROI for me means the risk of inaction. Are you waiting? I think that there's another great saying that I stole from Hans Munch. Hans Munch.
Of course.
He said it's the same as sometimes it's better to start imperfectly than perfectly waiting. So that's something that I think we brought in our company over the last years. We adjust and adapted all the time, and I think that would be also my recommendation to every person in our industry and all other industries. You have to adjust and adapt. The world is changing so fast, and you need to have an open vision, and you need to be agile and be willing to change and adjust your business according to the needs of the end consumer that's out there. I think what I liked about one of your keynotes a few years ago at FIBO is you were talking about, I think, the millennials, and you said to the audience, most of you guys, CEOs, business owners, are around 50, 55. Your customers now and in the near future are millennials, but their brain is completely differently wired. So don't try to understand them, but understand what they want and need.
Yeah.
And I think when you have an open vision to that, then you will adjust and change your business all the time.
Ernst,
so that's something that I strongly personally believe in.
So you're telling me, Ernst, someone actually remembered what I said at a keynote. That's really great.
I did, and I didn't even wrote it down.
and by the way, Hans, of course, I also spent time with him when I was, because I want to shout out to Hans. He's a regular listener, so he shared many words.
Hi,
I'm
Hans.
glad you remembered him. So
Yeah,
that's wisdom, my friend. That's wisdom.
yeah. Thanks.
so, so
Stolen wisdom.
yeah, no kidding. So going forward, I mean, what do you see happening in the industry space in general in the next 5 years? Are there some things that you really think are going to stand out?
Yeah, I think um, our industry has been really focused on activity. And I mean, I think there's been just a great research done by McKinsey. I think it was McKinsey did the research. And you see that health in general becomes wider than just activity. So I think one, of course, having this omni-channel approach, serving your customers around the clock, whenever and wherever they are, but also with different types of content. So I think it's very smart, and you don't have to um, create everything yourself. I mean, I don't believe in the Swiss knife model where everything is in your own knife. I more believe in the all-star pack model where you just pick the best of breed and just integrate or purchase things from companies that are doing something very exceptional in their field, whether that's sleep, nutrition. And I think if you're able to combine that and deliver that to your members, of course, within your own brand and your own, fingerprint and what makes you unique as an organization, I think then you're on the good way forward.
No, I agree. I agree. Um, well, Ernst, I'm really delighted to see you, and I'm really so delighted for your organization and your team doing what they're doing in the space. It's always wonderful that you see companies and founders over the years, and you watch what's happened. It's very rewarding to see your vision coming to reality. Are there any
Yeah, thanks.
final kind of words or thoughts that you could share with the listeners? Because I know that you're full of wisdom. So, are any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's really exciting times ahead. Not only because digital unlocks a great amount of opportunities for operators in this industry or suppliers. I mean, I think my final comment would be, look outwards. Like it's a bridge to where we started this podcast. Have the Dutch mentality of open vision. Look what's out there. Yeah, go out there and connect things together in a very smart, intelligent way, so you can adjust and adapt your business to what's needed for in the end your customer, the end consumer.
Brilliant, brilliant, Ernst. Thank you so much. And again, I know my listeners and our listeners are going to have a great time enjoying this podcast. Folks, in the show notes, you're going to see all the links to Funxtion, learn more about Ernst and his team and what they're up to. I highly suggest you follow them and kind of check out what's going on, because there's a lot more to come from our friends in the Netherlands with all the things that they're up to in the innovation circuit. So thanks so much, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you very much.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.